In our group, we've been talking about, like a mean protagonist or a nasty protagonist, so it was interesting to me that you're specifically talking about that. Were you at all afraid of having a sort of nasty protagonist, or did you find it would be really fun to write that?
I had an unseemly amount of fun. I had, I've just come back from a book tour, and someone actually said to me, "How could you make such a mean grandma?" Grandmas are, and I thought, it's a risk, and but I've been around for a while. I can take a risk, and if the character's unpleasant, I just think of the greats was not only Raskolnikov was Madame Bovary, a living doll, a sweetheart, but in order to paint somebody who's not a one-dimensional James Patterson monster, I don't care. I mean, you have to create that person's character. You don't have to necessarily have to go back to their childhood, but you have to give some idea of why they're like that. Do they have any vulnerabilities? They have to. All you have to do is make them human. And if everybody's a no good louse, there are degrees of no good life, within a world. I mean, if you read some of why am I going blank on his name? City Primeval. Elmore Leonard. Thank you. Elmore Leonard, some of his works not peopled with charmers, but they have, even though they can be no good nicks, they're engaging no good nicks. They have, and Gloria has humor, and she also has great insight. She's very smart. So you give them something, but you should never be afraid of a character who wants to take you over. You should just view it as a gift. And, when you start rifling through the pages, then it hasn't worked. But you have to give it a shot.
I have about 100 questions, but I don't want to be the one, so.
Yeah.
I recently discovered Sophie Hannah, and all of her protagonists are kind of nasty. And in the beginning I rebelled and didn't really want to read books, and now I'm an addict. And it sounds to me, I have to read Goldberg variations, but it sounds to me that you sort of did the same thing. You let yourself get into the head of a bad person, and then
I mean, I've had people with problems before, and I've had bad lesser characters, and certainly bad villain types in my novels, but never as a main character, someone as hurtful as she is. But what especially as I wrote her thoughts, and she's very sour but very accurate, and I have fun. And you have to allow yourself the ability, granted that when you're writing, especially if you're at the beginning of a writing career, you walk around with your guts in a knot. Is this going to work? Am I making an ass of myself? Am I giving it too much time? Am I not giving it enough? There are so many levels on which you can make yourself crazy. But you should never turn away something like that. Yeah.
How much feedback do you seek, if any at all, and before you decide, well, I'm ready, that's it?
Okay. The only one who consistently reads my work before I hand it in, I never show it to I talk about it to my editor beforehand. And over the course of my career of 30 years, I don't know, I've had 3 editors, one just on my first novel. She left publishing, not because of me, actually. A second for over 20 years, and then now a third. So I found it very useful because they'll ask wonderful, not only editor questions, but smart reader questions. And so I like to talk it up, but then I go off by myself. My husband reads it, and my now very grown children, who are both good fiction readers, smart fiction readers. My son and daughter read it. And give me, but the key thing here is that they're smart, they're educated readers of fiction. Everything from thrillers through, the literary fiction, but they're benevolent. If they have an agenda with me, it doesn't come out when talking about my novel. And they give me guidance, and they don't tear it down, because look, even after 13 novels, 14 books, screenplays, what have you, you can still start doubting and be hurt. They'll never be, I'll never be secure enough to say, I believe in this. I mean, when someone says, just this thing. So, and very often it's because it would. Because when you're in the process of writing, you haven't completed the process. When you're 2/3 of the way through a book, you haven't fully established the voice, whether it's a first-person narrator or a third-person narrator. The voice doesn't develop until the end, when you're almost taking dictation. Then you have to go back to the beginning and start the rewriting and rewriting. So if someone is talking to you about, I don't know, your adverbial clauses, even if you're in a group and several, why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? All of these suggestions may be decent and benevolent and may even have validity. But if you tried them all, you're going to ruin your manuscript. So you have to see it through till the end and then show it, I think. I think that's the best way. Unless there's one particularly good reader in your life. But that's why, and while I believe in classes that can help you and steer you and mainly urge you on, keep you going. Nothing, this work is alone. I mean, I'm head of a literary organization, Poets and Writers. I'm chairman of the board. I truly believe that writers need interaction with colleagues, and that it is a very isolating profession, but the isolation is necessary. Anything else?
I have one more.
Sure.
So this was your first novel without an outline.
Yes.
So did that feel tremendously different to you? I didn't know you were an outliner.
Well, sorry. The book tour cold. I always was an outliner because for my first novel, I was home with the 2 little kids. My husband here was then chief of the criminal division in the U.S. Attorney's Office. He was working nights. I couldn't get a babysitter on Mondays, which was in the new school, was the only one who had a workshop. In fiction, it was Monday nights. So I said, oh, I'll never write a novel. But then I thought there must be some way, and I bought a book called Writing a Novel by a British author named John Brain. And it said, make up a list of characters, make an outline of whatever it was, 3, 4, 5 pages. So I did, and when writing a whodunit, it's certainly a great practice because you want to go where the scales are out of balance through the search that will result in them being, the world being brought back into equilibrium. So, and you want a nice clear narrative line and not have people meandering into fields of clover a la the Victorian novel. What I also didn't do on my first, but later did with crime fiction, was to make an outline of the murder from its inception through its execution to the cover-up. And I found that to be very useful. So I still might go back and
So you
outline
outlined
some
the
things.
crime specifically?
Right,
So that
yes.
you know that's really solidly in your mind and you
Right,
can work it around.
right. And then I also outlined the novel itself, but then the crime, just so I can see that clearly and always know it's just an extra help, and it's amazing what comes up. But for here, I really wanted the element of surprise. I didn't want to choose one of them or none of them and have that decision drive the novel. I wanted to see what would happen. And I also thought, I want to do it differently. I want a little excitement. On Long Island, this passes for excitement. I'm very glad that I did that. It's the go with your gut, and your guts err, but in this case, it was a good decision. Okay, thank you.